Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Justice. We're looking for your next album. We're going to have a change in the schedule. We were going to ask Shaka to come up right now, but Senator Street is on a tight schedule, so I'd like to, Shaka, I know you don't mind, ask him to come forward and just say a couple words for us. He has to get back down to Philly. And, oh, that's right, Allentown. Yeah, we're going over to Allentown. Thank you, sir.
Well, I want to thank everybody who came out. Young lady, that was amazing, very impressive.
Thank you.
You captured so many thoughts, and I'm just really moved by what you did. I want you to understand that for each of you who's come out and been engaged today, it's incredibly important that you're here. The level of engagement in our community can be determinative of what happens in this Commonwealth, in your immediate community, and in the country. Pennsylvania has the opportunity to send more new Democrats to Congress than any other state in the country. One of those seats is right here in the Lehigh Valley with Susan Welton. Making sure that Donald Trump does not have a Congress that will rubber stamp his bigotry and xenophobia. I mean, he is bigoted against more different categories of people than I probably have time to describe, and in ways that are otherwise unimaginable. A Muslim ban, something that people would not have thought to be something that people would have. We're going to ban people from the country on the basis of their religion, something that they've talked about openly. Conversion therapy, which sounds pretty innocuous, that the Vice President has talked about. It means strapping people, LGBT members, into electric chairs and shocking them until they say that they no longer love who they love, is something out of a horror movie. Yet we have a Vice President who has embraced it and a president who won't renounce the vice president's thought about it. People like that shouldn't occupy the White House.
That's right.
A president who can't figure out whether or not the Nazis or the people protesting for civil rights, which one is the good ones. He said they both seem about the same to him. Nazis, actual Nazis, not we're going to talk to people with swastikas and burning crosses. He can't figure out who's on the right side. Even after they murder and run down a young white woman who was standing up for people of color, murdered, and in the heels of that, he still can't figure it out. A person accused of rape multiple times, multiple accusations, may be confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States. And I don't know how that can sit with sexual assault survivors. We live in dangerous times, but the good news is that we do have a process that allows us to be engaged. If you look at what happened, like you said, with Roy Moore, when African Americans, particularly African American women, got engaged, we were able to win in Alabama. And I'll tell you that in Pennsylvania, we have an opportunity to win. We have an opportunity to turn the country around, starting with electing enough Congress people to make sure that we will not implement a xenophobic, bigoted agenda in Washington. But moreover, by re-electing Senator Casey, we will further make sure that the U.S. Senate doesn't get any more folks rubber stamping his agenda. And at the state level, we're not immune from this kind of bigotry. Senate Bill 3 was a direct assault at the reproductive rights of women. And it passed the state legislature, went to Governor Wolf's desk where he vetoed it. It passed it despite the fact that one of my Republican colleagues who was in tears, a female senator in tears, begged her colleagues not to move forward with the legislation, explaining her own story and how wrong it was, and they didn't care to move forward with it. And it was only because Governor Wolf stopped it. And we talked about the changing to the funding formula, and I'll tell you, I'm as sensitive to the effects of the charter school, eliminating the charter school reimbursement and what that did to inner cities as anybody, because the only school district more dramatically harmed by changing the charter school reimbursement provisions than the Allentown School District was the Philadelphia School District. Those were the two worst hit school districts in the Commonwealth, but it disproportionately affected the places where black and brown children lived. And so at a time when Governor Corbett was making drastic cuts to education, he made sure that he changed the formula to make sure we got hurt even worse than everybody else. Although he hurt everybody with education, he hurt us even more. And although we've restored 100% of the funding, we still, the new formula only applies to new money. So school districts like Allentown and Philadelphia are still not 100% whole. We're just better off than we were with Corbett. So there's still work for Governor Wolf to do. The only reason this happens is because people came out and voted. So 2010, we had a lax. We got Corbett and our school systems were devastated. And when Wolf came back, in 2014, we came out in bigger numbers, and we elected Governor Wolf and made Corbett a one-term governor. And our education system is starting to recover. Because saying improving applies, and we're better than we once were. We're starting to recover from the Corbett cuts. We came out in massive numbers for Barack Obama because he inspired people to come together, people of all walks of life, and we began to move this country. People forget the country was at the brink of economic ruin. They said we were on the heels of a second Great Depression when Barack Obama took office, and everyone was going to be devastated, and he pulled the country together and turned us around and gave America one of its strongest economies with 14 million jobs created. And now we're undoing it. For what purpose? So what we have to remind folks is that when we vote, and when we vote in big numbers, the results benefit all Americans. And for people, as a person of color, I'll remind you this. It was the Black Panthers that first talked about having school lunches. That's right. And having school breakfasts. But a lot of children around the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, around America, who are poor white kids, have benefited just as much as poor black kids did because of that. It was President Obama, a black man, that talked about the Affordable Care Act and pushed and got it through Obamacare. But Obamacare, while it benefited folks who lived in cities, it benefited even more many of the rural white folks who voted for Donald Trump because they had access, in some cases, to no hospitals at all. And he made sure that all underserved communities, whether they were rural or urban, black or white, Latino, Asian, all folks had greater access to health care. And so it rose the quality of life for everyone. We should understand that when we fight for the least of these, when we fight for the unions who fought for economic rights, gave us the 40-hour work week and the weekend. And even at its peak, the majority of the country was never in a union, but every worker in America has benefited by the increases of minimum wage, and the increases of a weekend, and the workplace restrictions that were put in place, and the protections by the labor movement. Those who are fighting for the people at the bottom invariably benefit everyone. So whether it's labor unions fighting for their members, they benefit everyone in the economy. Whether it's black and brown folks fighting for things like school lunches, it benefits everyone. When the personal freedoms that were fought for by the LGBT community to allow non-married people to add relatives onto healthcare benefits, you know how many straight folks I know who were living together got health benefits because a man was able to add his girlfriend, or girlfriend added her boyfriend to their health benefits as a partner? Those benefits were won by the LGBT community, but were benefited many straight individuals who were unmarried. When we fight for the least of those, as the Bible would say, when we fight for the least of those among us, we're doing the Lord's work because we benefit everyone. That's right. And that is the core value of what this party has always been about. And if the Democratic Party is going to really be what it needs to be, we have to be reminded that the reason, the commonality in what we stand for is that we fight for those who most need it, and when we do, we benefit everybody. That's our fundamental message. That's why we fight for women's rights, LGBT rights, black rights, immigrants' rights, freedom of religion, the freedom for the protection, workplace protections for workers. And so I'm glad that you've come out here. And no matter what your background, you should understand getting Latino and Muslim and Asian and African American voters engaged will benefit us all. Men should understand getting women workplace protections will benefit us all. Those who are straight should understand that the workplace protections for the LGBT community benefits us all. Dr. King said we are all interconnected. We are all linked in an interconnected web of unity. And we need to remember that. And I'll leave with this. He also said, and it was engraved on the statue on the Martin Luther King chapel in front of at Morehouse College, where Dr. King and I both went to school. And it said, you can judge a man or a woman not by where they stand in times of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of conflict and controversy. So all of us, the true measure of how we will be judged by our Creator will be how we stand in times like this. Thank you all for this program, and we got work to do. God bless.
All right, thank you so much, Senator Sherif.